It's the Winning Ticket Podcast, where victory is guaranteed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Winning Ticket Podcast. We're happy that you're here with us. We're talking more XFL this week, week 5 to be exact. And we're almost at this is the midway point, right? 10 regular season games of the XFL. So we're happy to break down these handicaps for you. Of course, I got Zach, Dean, and Joe on the line.
Heyo.
And Dean, we thought you might have been adrift at sea. Welcome back.
Oh, I am back. Tell
us how the trip was.
I was on a 7-day free cruise. And
very nice.
It was a lot of fun. It was great to relax and really recharge my batteries. I must say, guys, I was itching to get near a TV. I missed a ton of sports things. Saturday, I was completely out at sea. The cruise ship, get this, had only ESPN2 and ESPN Caribbean, where they showed exclusively women's cricket. Very interesting.
Show.
Fucking women's cricket.
Listen, any handicaps, for women's cricket?
Maybe it's a good thing that I didn't buy the unnecessarily expensive internet package, because I probably would have tried to take something. Just look at it. What's actually really funny is the day that we got off the ship, I actually took something in NASCAR, because I was like, wow, now I have access to the world again. I need to take
something to wet my whistle.
My lineup won, actually.
That's great.
I won $21.
Nice. So. Let's fill you in, and Joe and Zach, you guys could help out. We handicapped. The Guardians had a big victory this past weekend. What have been the storylines from week 4 carrying over into week 5?
So sure, I'll start off with the Guardians. At least the storyline is Matt McGloin no more, baby.
Oh my God, he's done.
He's done. Perez, Perez played okay.
Right.
He didn't do anything special, but he didn't turn the ball over.
Right.
Yep.
He threw smart incompletions instead of forcing the ball down the field or creating turnovers, and the run game was effective. Mm-hmm. So it was, and the field goal kicking was effective as well.
I actually have a ton on the state of the Guardians right now, and of course Luis Perez, formerly of the Birmingham Iron in the AAF. So that was one where when the Guardians signed him, I had him circled. So I'm glad to see he's in now. Guys, I also saw that DC got shut out.
That was very surprising.
That was the most
Joe,
surprising
why don't you give us some insight on the DC game?
Yeah, man. It was all about the run game for the Vipers. They had 2 guys. I think it was the first 2 guys in XFL history in the short, illustrious career of the XFL. For 2 guys, even to go over 100 yards is awesome, but to have 2 guys who do that is quite incredible. So not only did the defenders not stop anyone on the ground, but they themselves also looked ridiculous offensively. So it's really the tale of 2 teams for the defenders right now. And going back home this week, now playing the Battlehawks, who are as high as can be. And if you listen to the Power Rankings episode, they're right there with the Roughnecks. So this is going to be quite the test for the defenders. I think heads will roll, honestly, if the defenders get completely blown out at home here, even though the Battlehawks are favored by 3.5. This could be a really tight one here for the defenders and the defenders' crowd.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that we learned from our partners. They really keep track of attendance records. I believe that they were saying that attendance is consistently going down because obviously, opening weekend, you have your rally cheese and you're really getting into it. Like we were talking before we hit play or record. Wow, I'm still on vacation. We were talking about how one of our friends went to the game and it was really cold and nobody wanted to go for the Guardians, of course. And so it's going to be interesting to see how some of these home fields kind of are now as we get into the season. But guys, I'm chomping at the bit to get ready for this week. Where do we want to start?
Let's start with game 1 of the week, which is Seattle Dragons versus the Houston Roughnecks. The Roughnecks are home, and we're looking at the total right here. We got Seattle is currently 12.5-point underdogs. It is Wednesday night. The over is 45.5. And I'll start right off if you guys don't mind, because this game is it's going to be my play of the week. Spoiler alert.
All right. Starting off strong. I like it.
Starting off strong. I am taking the points.
All right.
Taking Seattle plus 12.5. And obviously I like it if it gets any higher. I like it all the way down to 10.5. Okay. So I will give a 2-point cushion there.
I like that.
Why do I like the Seattle Dragons?
I would love to know.
BJ Daniels, as Joe talked about in the power ranking episodes, if you listened, has turned the Seattle offense around. Last week, they had a very close game with the Battlehawks. As you know, they covered.
Mm-hmm.
They got the run game going. They had some creative offensive plays. Silvers is done, man. He's a shite quarterback, and they've shown that the emergence of BJ Daniels is going to help pump up that offense. Now, you might think, Zach, oh my God, the Roughnecks are playing they're the best team in the league. Well, we also talked about, and by we, I mean Joe talked about in the power ranking episode, last week, the Roughnecks barely won. Landry Jones turned the ball over 4 separate times, and one of those was a scoop and score by a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So more or less, the offense kind of was non-existent. You could throw that up to maybe a great performance by Dallas, or maybe, just maybe, they're starting to get figured out because now we have 4 weeks of tape.
Right.
So personally, last week, Seattle, they gave up what? 23 points to the Battlehawks?
Yeah.
Not bad. Teamu had a decent game. The run game was okay, but I really think the Dragons, after now a week with BJ Daniels at practice, pending any unknown injuries, I think that they should be able to hang, possibly, dare I say, have a chance to win outright.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's actually a really good piece right there. I'm sure the money line is extremely attractive, and that's something that we kind of saw a lot.
Plus 390.
390, yeah. So that's something that we saw in the AAF, that it was pretty much like the good teams traveled, and of course Houston traveled and played. But I think the road splits kind of scare me away from the outright upset. But honestly, I also, and this isn't like an official play for me, this is just kind of where I agree with you, Zach. I'm kind of just leaning that way. Seattle plus 12.5, I think earlier in the week, super early in the week, like Monday, I believe they were around 13. Joe definitely has a ticket out on that. I know nothing gets by his class. But guys, did you know that for tiebreakers, actually touchdown differential, kind of like soccer, is the second tiebreaker? And funny enough, Houston has the second worst defense, giving up 11 touchdowns on the year.
Wow.
I said this during the Houston Vipers game that I don't...
Tampa Bay Vipers?
Houston versus Vipers game.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't like Houston's defense at all. They're very interception dependent. They gave up 11 touchdowns. Dare I say that I'm also leaning the over. Joe, I know that you have a lot of things to say about this one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you guys nailed it. I also lean over, but first I want to talk about the Dragons. It opened to 13. I saw it lower in like 20 minutes. It lowered to 11 and a half in Vegas on a couple of books. So what I did is I immediately ran to DraftKings, obviously, because that's the one we have here out in Jersey. So I grabbed it at 13. I don't know if I love it all the way down to 10 and a half, but I'm with you, Zach. You got to love double digits here. I have a feeling that, and I know it's like this in the NFL, but mobile quarterbacks, they're almost like a built-in backdoor cover. Because when the team is, like, let's say the Roughnecks are up, just to use some nice round numbers, let's say they're up 20-5. So not covering, or I'm sorry, the Roughnecks are covering, and we're not cashing a ticket right now. But then they're in like a nice like man up 3 deep, a little cover 2 man, and just a lot of underneath stuff and mobility from a quarterback can be kind of deadly, because then the Roughnecks can score a touchdown. Then the Dragons can score a touchdown, and who cares? The Roughnecks still win, right? But that's good for us because that's a win and a cash, right? So hopefully Jim Zorn doesn't screw it up and he can actually make sure Daniel starts. This team is not bad with Daniels. They hung with St. Louis on the road. So, yeah, you guys completely nailed that. And I kind of do lean the over with you, Dean, because of the Daniel situation. And one thing that is going against the Roughnecks is their D. So no matter what, this team is not short of points here, but defensively they might be slipping a little bit. So I think over 45.5 is a good play early on.
Yeah, and I think just one more point on the game total is that every single Roughnecks game has gone over 45.5. Actually, all of their 4 games, the average total score is 53.5.
There you go.
So that's where I would kind of make the line. I don't care. I'll take all those under tickets. But I really, I think I'm calling it right now. The Houston defense is a little bit fraudulent.
Yeah, I love that stat right there, Dean. I'm sold. 45.5 on the over. I'll probably play it. Maybe I'll parlay that with the Seattle Dragons also covering at 12.5. Do we have 12.5? To me, I'm trying to figure out if we have any established key numbers through 4 weeks. So because that's 2 touchdowns and a half point.
The way I look at it is after 4 weeks, they've even talked about it a little bit on the like on the broadcast booths, that it seems to be they've figured out that analytically the smartest thing to do is go for 2.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is if you get a successful
every time?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
Pending on the score.
Right.
Like your first couple scores go for 2.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So let's assume that they go for 2 and kick a field goal. That's what, 11 points right there?
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is 12.5. That should cover you for a touchdown and a field goal.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
12.5 is absolutely 2 possessions. And that's
even technically a 3-point extra point and a field. You know what I mean? That's 12.
That's the thing that we were running into is that the conversion rates, irregardless of if it's 1, 2, or 3, the conversion rates have been a lot lower than an extra point in football. Obviously, you have to run an entire play. So realistically, John, to answer your question, I would probably say anywhere from 6 to about like 11 is like pretty much key. So getting 12.5 or even 13, like Joe dangled, that's amazing. But Zach had mentioned that the average key number is 8, and actually we have a game that is +8, and that is our New York Guardians at the Dallas Renegades. The total on that game is 37. Who wants a bite of this one?
I'll take a bite.
I didn't want to jump in and step on someone.
Yeah, you know what? I'll start by talking about the Dallas Renegades because I had skin in that game last week. I'm thinking that the Renegades were at home; they could pull off an upset. Instead, their coach, I think, broke his leg. So, if that is any indication on the rest of the season,
the rare coach in
the coach industry, to which he tweeted, I believe, he said something like, "I ain't soft," which is why he coached the rest of the game. But irregardless, the Renegades, oh my God, so many mistakes. Right? We talked about, you said 4 interceptions, right? Or
3 interceptions, and 1 fumble.
Fumble.
The score for a touchdown would run up.
And they were still in the game at the end of the game again, it was a home game. And like we mentioned before, the splits between how these teams perform at home and on the road is, if home team already has a massive advantage, I think. So, but looking at this, the Renegades, based on that poor performance, based about another home game against the Guardians who just kind of fixed some of the problems that they had, I don't know what to make of the Renegades now. I know, Joe, Renegades were in your top half on your power rankings, or were they bottom half? Can you remind me?
They were actually third.
Okay.
But the issue here with me, John, is I think that the public is – this is going to be a quarterback situation for both teams that we're going to have to monitor. So the Guardians, after their big win against the Wildcats, they covered – and won outright by 3 against the Wildcats at home. To us, no surprise there. We knew they were going to cover. I even sprinkled 1 unit on the money line play for the Guardians because I'm a complete psycho and I take outright dogs when they're 8-point dogs. But anyway, so the Guardians, not to derail your handicap here, John. Yeah, the Renegades were 3rd and the Guardians are still 7th. So I'll get more into this game with the quarterback situation that I described. But I'm going to throw it back to you so you can finish. This opened at +8.5, and now it's already +7.5, going down in favor of the Guardians.
So, talking about quarterback play, let's kick it back to week 1 here because we obviously know Landry Jones is hurt. So we are going to be getting Philip Nelson. Mm-hmm. So for those who do not remember, in the inaugural week of the XFL, we had a lovely game with no touchdowns. It was the Battlehawks versus the Renegades in Dallas, where Dallas managed to put up a measly 9 points. In that game, Philip Nelson had 229 yards, a pick with a quarterback rating of 77. That's right. I'm a fucking winning ticket stat whore. So the offense was stagnant, and they've had the pleasure of having Landry Jones the last 3 weeks, even though he played poorly last week. So you're getting somebody who, honestly, both quarterback positions for both teams are kind of questionable. Yeah. But for me, I kind of feel like the loss of Landry Jones is going to be larger than, the questionable quarterback play of Perez or McGloin. I'm assuming we're getting Perez, right?
It actually said that McGloin was a full participant. Yeah, McGloin was a full participant.
So McGloin's going to be on a short string. Can we agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
So I actually like
both of them will be.
I like the idea of McGloin having to put pressure on him, basically saying like, "Hey, if you're not playing efficiently, you're getting pulled probably within the first." You can see him probably getting pulled at the end of the first quarter if he does anything too dumb. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Renegades defensively. Let's see, they've given up 9 points.
Well, before we get off the quarterback thing, let me just jump in really quick. So, Zach, you actually took the words right out of my mouth, and I'll reveal my play at the very end. But yeah, we already saw this backup quarterback. It's not like a shuffling of the deck of, hey, we don't know what we have in this guy. We want to get a look. We knew what we have, and it was very frustrating for the offensive coordinator because they shove a microphone in his face after bad throws.
Right.
And basically what the situation is that they run an air raid offense, and this guy just quite literally cannot hang in the pocket and make the throws that they need. Also, it's little fun fact, the Guardians have 3 of the top 5 sack leaders on their team.
Wow.
So, of course, follow me down the line. The Guardians have only scored 5 touchdowns this year. That's 1.25 per game. Dallas is averaging just 2 touchdowns per game. Also, if you look at the Guardians scoring last week, they made 2 field goals of 45 yards plus, which is pretty long in the XFL. These guys aren't NFL kickers, with 25-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So did I just lead everyone to the banks of the under of 37? Yes, it's a low total, but I've said on
led me there.
I've said on previous podcasts and previous episodes that we had of this is that an average XFL game is 38-39. 37 doesn't scare me away. I mean, I'm looking to take the under there. Joe, what do you think about any of that? I mean, I just am not a buyer on either of these offenses with their starting quarterbacks, and especially the fact that we're not going to get Landry Jones and Perez. If you look at the Guardians game script, regardless of who's playing quarterback, they want to ball control, play defense, and bleed the clock.
Of course, yeah, both of these teams want a ball control. So I agree with you for both of these totals. These were actually both of my leans here. I think that's the only total play that I have since like week 2 or week 3. I think you've targeted these totals pretty well, and I might just ride it out with you. I do like both these games, one over, and then finally this one under. But real quick on the quarterback battle, I think, and here's the issue: I lean Renegades. However, I'm probably going to be looking at a live play here. It's going to all depend on who gets to start for the Guardians. But I think both guys got first team reps. God forbid it's McGloin. Are you kidding me? That would be an atrocious mistake for the Guardians coaching staff. And then, I mean, how much do we really read into Nelson's play with the Renegades? Week 1, he looked a little poor, but a lot of people looked poor in week 1. He led them down, and I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 minutes ago. It was a potential game-winning or game-tying drive at the end of the game, and he threw a pick on a wide receiver screen that was bobbled and pretty much just shovel passed into the defender's hands. Right. It was ridiculous. So I don't know. Maybe his nerves are okay. Maybe they can keep this game close, but at 7.5 point favorites, man, that's only a lean. If I was a bookmaker, I would have put this at like, with no Landry Jones, I would have put this at, I don't know, Renegades 4.5, because you have the public loving the Guardians and the public hating the Renegades. So this is completely shocking to me that at 7.5, even though it does fit kind of perfectly with my power rankings, with the Renegades being 3rd and the Guardians being 7th.
Now, Joe, let me add to that, because we're going to talk a little about game script here very quickly. I'm just looking at these week 1, this Renegades Battlehawks matchup. You talked about how the Renegades run the air raid offense. Just to give you an idea of how ineffective he was, all right? Horrible. Combined rushing attempts as a team in week 1 with Nelson at quarterback, they only had 12 rush attempts for the entire game. Nelson completed 33 passes for only 218 yards.
I have no idea why
this team... A lot of passing for not a lot of yards.
Yeah, because that was one of the few games that actually was in the state to watch. And if you watched, they would have a lot of good route combinations going down the field, and he would just take a dump off. And the offense coordinator was getting very frustrated with that. And Joe, you brought up a good point that last week he had a almost a game-winning drive that realistically, without a freak play, they probably would have scored, and who knows, maybe even gone for the win. But correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he like 1 for 3 on that drive?
Exactly. He didn't. It's not like he took them by the reins and he was like Peyton Manning or something on a game-winning drive. But I don't know. I like to see the nerve, but that's nothing to make me want to be off of the under here.
Yeah, definitely. So. Honestly, I think we kind of talked that one into the ground. Unless anyone else has anything, it's funny. I'm sitting here saying like, "Oh, the Guardians aren't that good," but I am rocking the beautiful new Guardians hat.
It looks lovely.
And actually, a little nice little side note. I was on the beach in Mexico. That's right. Not a brag because I'm rich. I do this thing all the time. And saw a guy on the beach, and someone nudged me and they go, "Hey, they have like a XFL hat too," and it was a Guardians hat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. They're catching on.
Yeah,
I have a hat and a T-shirt up in my bedroom. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
I got it.
We're
This
Guardians fans, but we're a little disgruntled.
We've said it since week one. We are a Guardians podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I may have been sleeping with the enemy a little bit because I have a nice, fat, juicy plus 1,000 championship winning ticket on the St. Louis Battlehawks, and they are playing in DC. I got -4 at over under 39 is the game total. And of course, guys, I'm reading all these from FanDuel. This is something that you know very well from the NFL pod. You guys always got to shop around for numbers. Joe, I think you were saying a lot of 7.5s for Dallas. There are 8s. If you back the Guardians, definitely go find an 8.
This one's a 3.5.
It's out there. So yeah, if you like St. Louis,
principle.
if you like St. Louis, go get yourself a 3.5. If you like DC, you might want to take the 4. But guys, this is my official pass, so you will not hear my voice anymore. I just think it's too many unknowns. DC 2-0 at home, 0-2 on the road with a total of 9 points. Now they're back home. Are DC actually a good home team, or was it a schedule thing? Like, what do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Battlehawks flat out. I'm with Joe. They're probably behind the Roughnecks as the best team in the XFL. And obviously the Battlehawks home field advantage is probably the biggest advantage out of the entire league, and they're away this week. That said, I hate to be, I guess, public on this. The Defenders dropping a goose egg last week definitely scares me. It's hard to back a team that puts on such a putrid. You're looking at a league that has the Vipers, the Dragons, who we're expecting to be not particularly good, even the Guardians for that matter, and the Guardians can still put up 17 points and a win. I don't trust the Defenders right now. I don't even know if is any of their players leading? I don't know. I'm looking at some stats. Any of their players leading in any kind of category? Are the Defenders really great at any one particular thing? Or are they a team that could just, rally together a couple wins if they're at home? So I guess I have the same questions as you, Gene. But I think, for me personally, I would fade the Defenders, which I know might sound a little public, might sound a little square. But the Battlehawks only giving 3.5, I think that's pretty fair. I would probably take the Battlehawks in that situation. Just think the better team is going to prevail. If the Battlehawks are as good as we anticipate them to be, and the Defenders are still this unknown, I think 3.5 points or 4 points is nothing. So
yeah, this is going to be my pass as well. Could not agree more with what Dean said. John, give yourself some credit, man. I think that by watching the games, you can see the Battlehawks are tremendous. If you're going to lay 4, it's only 4 on the road against a DC team who is tanking. So I wouldn't necessarily call that square. Sometimes sharps just kind of overlook it. Like bottom line is it's less than a touchdown. The Battlehawks are obviously very capable. Capable offense and doing that and whatnot, but this isn't even going to be a live play for me. Like there's nothing to feel out. The Guardians and the Renegades, I can feel out the quarterback situation. Are they going to be running the ball a ton? I can look at some live plays there, which I'll be handing out probably in our Slack channel as I did last week. I gave out a Dragons plus 17.5, and they came back and almost tied it up and won. But this is a total no play for me. I'll just watch this as a fan and prep for week 6 for when the Battlehawks go on the road to the Vipers.
Yeah, Joe, I agree as well, and I'm going to join the party of passing here. I want no part of this game. I will say this, based off of our power rankings and just watching week after week of XFL football, in theory, if the Battlehawks are as good as advertised, in theory they should put a fucking beatdown on DC, really. Mm-hmm. The home field advantage will play a part of it. I was actually looking at the weather to see if we can get some sort of upper hand, but it looks like it's going to be like sunny and 48. So, yeah, I just don't see any value on this game. I don't like the total. I don't like the line. So I will just observe and see if St. Louis can reign supreme upon the XFL.
Yeah, definitely. And Joe, now harkening back to your Power Rankings episode, of course, if you guys missed it, definitely go back. It's episode 74. It's in our feed. Really great stuff from Joe, collecting our thoughts. And of course, I had to shove my big mouth on there as well. But Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. You had LA as the worst team, right?
I did, and kind of unfortunate. I mean, like when you look at the records, they are technically the worst team in the league. But I don't know. Josh Johnson can do some things. I think like they can stretch the field a little bit. But 6, 7, and 8, you can talk me into the Vipers still being last. Don't give me that fake news about the run game. Obviously, that's an outlier. Let's pump the brakes on that. But yeah, it's Guardians 7, and then Wildcats, unfortunately, are number 8.
Right. And all right, so that's very interesting because when I was looking over some film today, looking over my stats, I actually have a play on this game. And of course, for those of you who don't know, you can go find it. It's Tampa Bay at LA -2. The total on the game is 40. And I actually have my lock of the week, and it feels kind of disgusting, like in my mouth, like saying it, but I'm going LA -2. And hear me out here. Yes, LA, they're 1-3, and they have played poor at times. But where is their bad loss? I mean, in the spirit of March Madness, well, where are the bad losses? I mean, because they put up 14 to the Guardians in cold weather and swirling winds. They lost to Houston, which is no problem. They lost to Landry Jones during his debut, and then they absolutely took care of business in their other game, 39-9
at home, I believe, too.
Yeah, so I definitely think that all that is maybe, yes, they're 1-3 and we see that, but at the same time, they've played the better teams. I mean, Joe, based on your pairing, is they played the best team, the third best team, and then of course they lost to the 7th, which is bad. But I may go ahead and I'm adjusting mine. I don't think LA is the worst team. I actually think that Tampa Bay is, because last week was kind of a fluke. If you really think about desperation, they were completely desperate to finally get a win, and they took the ball completely out of Cornelius's hands, and they just ran the ball every single play. Joe, I think I texted you earlier saying, like, I can't figure out if they had a good scheme or it was poor effort on the defense. I think it was poor effort on the DC defenders. Totally looked like they didn't want to be there. LA has actually scored 12 touchdowns this year, which is actually second most. So they have been putting up points. And last week, like I said about the Guardians, two fluky – all right, fine. Maybe not fluky, but 2 field goals of 45 yards plus with 25-mile-per-hour swirling winds. I mean, that's that's a bad beat, kind of, if you really think about it. So I'm on LA here. And, of course, let's not overlook the travel concerns. I mean, Tampa Bay is going pretty much as far as 2 teams in this league can go. They're going all the way across the country. Now, am I saying that they're going to be on a bus somewhere traveling? No, probably not. I'm sure that they could spring for economy, but with everything that's going on in the world right now, traveling certainly isn't easy. So I'm going to chalk up a good old-fashioned traveling handicap. I'm going with that LA is actually maybe a little bit underrated here. What do you guys think of any of that?
I like the Wildcats here too, Dean. I've been trying to look at some interesting statistics here. Mainly the quarterback play of Josh Johnson, who only has 1 interception on the year, which is less than PJ Walker technically. It's only 7 touchdowns. But it comes with this. The team as a whole has 1,002 pass yards and only 246 rushing yards. So, looking at those numbers, it's actually kind of bizarre that there's not why he hasn't maybe doubled his touchdown total, or for that matter, tripled, quadrupled his interception total. So it makes the Wildcats harder to read in that regard. Kind of like you're saying, what's the worst loss? What's the bad loss here? And what's like why 1-3? Where's so I guess you could say the rushing offense.
I think that and strength of schedule. I mean, if they had basically the point that I was making is if they had the same schedule as the Vipers, they would be 3-1.
Yeah.
Joe, yeah. I know you have a lot about Vipers and Wildcats. Let's hear what you think.
Oh boy, do I, man. I am so happy that this game is happening, and I'm so happy that both of you like it. And I think that even if Zach was a Vipers buyer, I think we're going to convince him here on the Wildcats by the end of this. So I'm glad this is happening because I can explain the power ranking system that I do. So yes, Vipers are 6 and Wildcats are 8. This is on a neutral field. So we don't consider the home, we don't consider the travel, all that. If the Vipers were home, it would be Vipers by 4 if we just go off of the 3 points that the NFL uses as a home field advantage. So this is right where it needs to be. I think that the Vipers are, so like we said, Vipers are 2 spots above the Wildcats. However, Dean mentioned super bad spot for the Vipers going cross country. Don't forget, LA was in a really tough spot last week against the Guardians going across the country. We were on the Guardians. I even had Guardians to win outright because it was such a tough spot. So in my mind, I didn't downgrade LA that much because of how tough a spot it was. Now, I know you're thinking, Joe, what a hypocrite. Yes, you did. You put them at 8th. Sometimes in power rankings, the difference between 5 and 6 is way tighter than the difference between, I don't know, let's say 7 and 8, 3 and 4. Like, for example, I look at my power rankings with the Roughnecks being 1A and the Battlehawks being 1B. I think they're so close right now that I can't make a 1 and 2. Now, technically, the Vipers are 6 and the Guardians are 7, but I think there's definitely a little bit of disparity there. You guys see what I'm saying with that? So last point here, something we haven't mentioned is the time displacement as well. So this game is going to be at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. The Vipers just played on a Sunday. However, the Wildcats played on a Saturday. So the Wildcats get an extra day of rest and an extra day of prep. And I think that goes a long way in the NFL, and they have first class, their own private planes and all that stuff. So I'm going to wrap this up with Wildcats. I got it 1.5 earlier, but you can still get this at 2, and you might even be able to get this at 1.5. But I bet you this can get all the way up to 3 by game time.
Oh, definitely. And I just wanted to interject. I know that we've been complaining that they don't cover it as hard as far as beat writers go as the NFL. So injury reports are kind of hard to come by. Yeah. Well, here is an XFL Vipers injury report. 2 offensive linemen, 1 limited, 1 did not play today.
Wow.
And Devion Smith, I believe one of those 100-yard rushers that you guys had mentioned, DNP on Wednesday. So that's kind of something to look at. Maybe we're going to get a little bit of a banged-up guy. I think that last week was a complete flash in the pan. So that's my best play. Zach, do you have anything on that, or are you just coming along?
I'm along for the ride, gents.
Nice.
I do not have any extra, really anything worthwhile to say about this game. I agree with you guys both. I think last week was a fluke. I think it was more of a defenders showing their true colors and just being totally just bludgeoned to death by the run game. Their interior linemen were tired. They kind of just gave up the second half once they realized they couldn't stop the run, and that was just the end of it. So this week is going to be a completely different game script that they're going to have to adjust to. Mm-hmm. If I had to pick a side, I am on the winning ticket side.
Nice. All right.
That's where
guys. So let's recap just like we did last week. I just want to hear everybody's play of the week. Once again, if you had to go tell somebody to put their hard-earned money on one game, what are you going to play? Dean?
I think I just read it off. I'm going the LA Wildcats -2.
All right, Joe.
I hate to be a copycat, but I think I got to go with the Wildcats. However, if I can mirror my power rankings, I'll go Wildcats 1A, Dragons 1B. So I like those plays a lot, but I got to go.
Yeah,
baby.
I'm going to pick the Vipers to come in second in that game.
All right, Jono, pick of the week.
Pick of the week. For me, it's got to be Guardians Renegades under 37.
All right, I like it.
No 14 parlay this week?
No, I would say
I did love hearing that. When I listened back to the episode, I was like, that's great.
My 14 parlay did not work out. I should have stuck with 3 because it was really the defenders that fucked me over.
And Joe made a great point. Honestly, 3-leg parlays are 3 or 2. I remember in the Big Bank, now I'm going all the way back into the NFL season. I remember one time in Big Bank, you picked a teaser with 4 legs, and after we were done, I was like, you never want to do 4 legs.
Yeah. So. If I had to pick, I'll just say this, just for, maybe I'll make this a weekly thing. So I would take the under at Guardians Renegades, the over Dragons Roughnecks, the Battlehawks -3.5, and the Wildcats money line -130.
Wow.
All right. I like that. All right, guys, I just want to throw it out there. Week 3, I gave you the play of Wildcats. It hit. Last week, my play of the week was a parlay. It was the Guardians and the Roughnecks. And it cashed. And what was that, 310?
Yeah, it was good.
Holy value, guys.
You got
Week 5,
pressure's up now.
Let's go. We're going for 3 in a row, baby. You're going to take the Dragons with the points.
Wow.
All right, I like it.
All right.
All right, John, bring us home.
Bring us home. Of course, we want to shout out first a couple of things. Our good friends at In the Red Zone.
Yep.
And they've been doing some excellent work. I know, Joe, I don't know if you have any. You've been in touch with them.
Well, let me take it. So, the link for their show is going to be in the bio, of course. Special shout out to them. That was a part of my XFL researching today.
Yeah.
And then, of course, thanks to the Stat Boys, I kind of spoke it into existence. We now have the same handle for Twitter and Instagram, and that is at Winning TIX Pod. I love saying it like that. It just rolls off a lot better. So Winning TIX Pod is on both, and you definitely want to follow us on Twitter. We've been killing it with the funny comments lately. I believe one of our tweets got a couple hundred likes. So the Stat Boys and social media boys are working really hard back there behind the scenes to really get you guys some of the great content that we offer via social media. And then, of course, want to mention, if you want and if you're still interested in our premium Slack channel, Joe and I have been putting in the work. Guys, I'm not even joking. I think I work maybe an extra 15 hours a week just working and researching and really strengthening up my plays. We got a lot of things,
and people are signing up, so they're getting that best value.
Yeah, and like I said on last time, it's coming up to March Madness. How great would it be to win your office pool? We're actually meeting on Saturday for a couple college basketball type things. I'm about 60% on the season with over 125 plays, so that's I'm pat myself on the back for that because it's been a hard season. And we're coming up for conference tournaments. We're going to have an episode. We're going to do one where I am going to attempt to give you a 1 to 2 minute breakdown on each team that's in the tournament. So that's 68 minutes. So I hope you like listening to
That'll be great. That's a marathon.
Yeah. Let's so you guys are going to win your NCAA brackets if you sign up for sure, or if you're just subscribed to this podcast. So definitely you want to subscribe, rate, and review, and tell your friends, tell a partner, tell a loved one.
We don't ask a ton for reviews on this podcast because really the value is in hearing our picks. But if we're helping you win money, give us a shout out on your social media. Certainly leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Anchor, on Castbox. We've had some reviews come
literally anywhere that you can get podcasts. That's where we are.
Tell the local homeless man, grab him by the shoulders.
You are not going to find a better XFL podcast than what you are listening to. Yep. Last week we killed it. We're going to kill it again. Just trust us. We're going to win you money. It's going to happen. Victory's guaranteed.
Victory's guaranteed. We did it all NFL season too.
We do the legwork so you don't have to.
That's right. And hey, listen, I'll throw this out there too. If you are very invested in the XFL, maybe you do know a podcast or you host your own, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear how we can help each other out. The XFL is so new to everybody. Why not be the very best at what we do in talking about the XFL? So if we get the best minds, the best heads in the room, that would be amazing.
Amen. Joe, from the remote via satellite, do you have anything to add on?
No, you guys killed it. Let's have a super profitable week 5. And another cool thing about the Slack channel, well, 2 cool things actually. Your first month is free, so all we want to do is prove ourselves. And the second thing, you got to check out the live betting opportunities in the Slack channel. It's kind of impossible to give a podcast on a live betting opportunity. So yeah, you're missing out if you don't. It pays for itself. And like I said, we're trying to just be honest about it. We want to be held accountable, and we want to prove to you guys that we can do it. So let's win week 5, baby.
All right, let's do it. And John, I think you have a couple words for the people.
Just wanted to thank you all again for listening to Winning Ticks Pod, and we'll see you for NFL. Oh, my heart. XFL Week 6 and March Madness coming up. Until then, happy betting.